author of The Lawyer, the Lion, and the Laundry, the best title ever. Jamie Spannhake. In her new book, Jamie shares a profound and practical mind management strategy that will help us improve our lives from the inside out. And joining Jamie in conversation tonight is Suzanne Paxton, a 5-time Emmy Award-winning producer and the founder of Point Studio. So please join us after the program for a little wine and cheese. And Jamie's books will be available for sale and signing. And enjoy.
So this is where we want to focus in a little bit.
Okay.
Jamie believes a great life starts with doing the hard work of clarifying your values and priorities in order to create the life you want to live. This clarity, combined with mindfulness through meditation, a useful support network, organization, and acceptance of reality, and adjusting as life changes, leads to a fulfilled life.
That's a very good summary.
Okay. So, to start, and how many are already familiar with her book, or with Jamie? Okay, so a couple of people here. Okay, great. It does have the world's greatest title, right?
Well, I have to give credit to Brianna Ball. Yeah, she's the one who came up with the title.
Tell us about that.
Well, so I'm a lawyer, and I'm creative for a lawyer, but you know, my title was Mind Your Time. And she was like, that's really boring. Because she's a very creative person. And she was helping me with the book cover and other ideas going along with the book. And she said, we need it to be more like a story. And so she came up with the lawyer, the lotus, and the laundry, because the lotus was for the meditation and mindfulness portion, because one of the portions of the book is about meditation and mindfulness. And then I heard this great story that I love about the lion versus the dog. And it's about meditation, and I'll tell you the story real quick. So imagine that you're in a room, and in the room with you is a dog. And as you move the bone around that's in your hand, the dog follows the bone. You move your head, his head follows the bone wherever you move the bone. And the dog just can't help it. All the dog is focusing on is the bone. The dog doesn't even know that you're there, perhaps. And if you throw the bone into the corner, the dog follows the bone. He goes to get the bone. He doesn't even think about it. He just goes. Imagine you're in the same room, same bone, but there's a lion instead of a dog. And as you move the bone around, the lion might notice the bone. He's really more focused on you. And if you throw the bone into the corner, the lion might look and see that the bone is in the corner, but he's probably not going to chase the bone into the corner. So the idea is that the bone is your thoughts and all the thoughts you have running around in your head all the time. And that you want to be more like the lion and notice your thoughts, but not go down the rabbit hole that your thoughts are constantly taking you in, or at least mine are if I don't be more like a lion. And so I said, we need to change lotus to lion. So then it became the lawyer, the lion, and the laundry.
Such a great name.
What's the story with the laundry?
The laundry. So it's too bad that my daughter Sarah, right? So it's too bad that my daughter Sarah's not here, because she always says, I'm part of the laundry. Because the laundry, so the lawyer is your career, and the lion is your mindfulness and your meditation practice and your relationship with time and how to manage that. And then the laundry is your laundry list. It's everything else. And of course, Sarah's not really my laundry, but she likes to constantly say, I'm part of the laundry.
And it's just, it also, to me, it's like a symbol of the things that you have to get done,
yes,
and like
right.
just like all that,
All those
all
other
the other
things.
stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
And, so, when you wrote this book, who did you have in mind, and what was the goal of the book? Who's your audience? Who's this for?
Well, I'll tell you, when I first started writing it, I was writing it for working moms, because that's what I am, and write what you know. And then the more I started talking to focus groups, and Lindsay was in one of my focus groups, thank you very much. The more I started talking to people about it, the more I realized it was not a book for only working moms. It was a book for anyone that had a bunch of obligations. And so then I sort of broadened it to, oh, it's for working parents. And then when I really started talking to people about it, I thought, no, you don't have to be a parent either, right? Like it's good for, in particular, any transition period in your life. So if you were in high school looking at colleges, like this is a good book. If you're in college trying to decide what your major is or where you want to work or what you want your job to be, like this is a good book. If you're in law school, it would be good because it starts with defining your values and what's important to you and builds from there. And anytime that you're in a transition period, it's an ideal time for reflection of your values and what you want out of your life. Now, that's also good anytime in life to make sure that you're sort of checks and balancing yourself and that your life is the way you want it to be.
I think it's a good January book.
It is a good January
Start of the
book.
year.
Yeah.
Right. And then, what's your hope for the book? What do you want people to take from it? What's your goal of the book?
I want people to have hope that they can continue to do all the things that they want to do and not feel overwhelmed and exhausted. And part of that sometimes is reassessing what you want to do. I think that's where the values portion comes in. And there's a lot in the book about thinking about your time and what you want to do with it and how you want to spend it. But that's my hope for the book.
Jamie is a self-admitting self-help junkie.
That's true.
So tell us about that and tell us how that informed a lot of the book.
I listen, mostly in Audible now, to self-help books back to back to back all the time. And I have been doing that since I had a 24 cassette tape series from Tony Robbins in 1994. So, when I talk about doing a lot of research for the book, I've done a lot of research for the book because I've read or listened to so many self-help books. And so that led to me, in addition to being, when I got my certification as a health coach, writing an article 6 times a year for Attorney at Work blog for health and wellness, because I had all this knowledge about self-help guru information, and then I had this health certification as well. So when I started writing those, I was really researching what other people were saying and drawing on all of the books that I had at home for writing my articles and synthesizing other people's information into helpful information for other people. And eventually someone said to me, you have a lot of information and advice to share. You really should put some of your own information in your articles. And I was like, oh yeah, that's a really good idea. I'll do that. And then so it started progressing into me taking and synthesizing and changing and personalizing that information into these articles. And then at some point, after about 5 years of writing those articles, I wrote one that was only my advice. It didn't have any links to any other authors, it didn't have any references to any other books. And I never get email from readers from Attorney at Work. They might get email, Attorney at Work, the company, about their stuff, but no one ever emailed me personally. And that article, which was about managing transitions, I got 2 email from 2 male lawyers about this was so important, this was so beneficial to me, this was exactly what I needed to hear, thank you so much for writing this, and they told me a little bit about their struggle that they were going through and how that helped them, and I thought, oh my gosh, maybe I do have something to say that can help people. So that was the first inkling that, oh, maybe I should take this and make a book out of it.
I love that she did the hard work, right? So she has read all these self-help books, and then she so nicely synthesized it into this book.
Yeah.
And that it's boiling down a lot of things that you learn. So it seems like this should be simple, because it's not, you know, a five series volume.
Yeah.
But it's not as simple as it would look.
The concepts are simple. The application is not always easy, right? It's like the concept of not eating too much food is really simple, but it's harder to actually do that, right? And it's the same thing here. And when I first wrote the book, it was twice as long. And two of my friends that read it for me said, I think you should make it readable in 3 hours, because it's a book for busy people. Like, they're busy. And I thought, yes, exactly. And part of the problem that I have with some of the many self-help books that I read is I feel like it's repetitive, too repetitive, and I'm like, yeah, I got that in chapter 1, and I don't have a lot of time, so like, don't tell me again, you know, necessarily. So I really tried to synthesize it and say it once, or say it in a different way later that then would have a different context and meaning. And I took, it started out with exercises in it that you could apply. And I know some people don't like workbooks, right? So they just want to read the book and like think about it and let it wash over them, and that is the way that they process their information. So I took all those exercises out, and I put them in a separate workbook that you can download, purchase and download on my website, which is another 104 pages. Like, this is, I think, 104 pages, and that is another 104 pages. But that way you can do it whatever works for you.
And it's also broken down into sections, and you did that really on purpose.
I did.
On the choose after.
Yeah. So it's broken down into 3 main sections: choose, act, and think. The first, choose and think, are the mind management portions of the book, and act, which is in the middle, is the time management portion of the book. So choose is about choosing your thoughts. That's the first chapter. It's about defining what your values are and what's important to you and what you want your life to look like. And then it's choosing which thoughts to follow, which is the chapter about meditation and mindfulness. There's also some talk about yoga and some other things that you can do for meditation and mindfulness. Then act is the second portion of the book. And there's a chapter on organization, both organizing your time and your space. And there's a chapter on really building your support network, because we all need help from other people to do all the things that we have to do. And I think sometimes we forget to ask for help. So it's about finding those people that you know can help you, so that when you need that help, you know who to reach out to. And then the third portion is about thinking, and the way you think about time and your relationship with time, and how to transform that so that the way you think about time is helpful to you, doesn't make you feel worse. So one of the chapters is called Enough Time. And the idea is that we often say, oh, I just don't have enough time. And if we can flip that around and say, I have too much to do, instead I don't have enough time, it's semantics, but you have control over what you do, and you don't have control over how many hours there are in a day or how many days there are in a week. So it's just empowering you by the way you talk to yourself and by the way you think about time to use your time more efficiently and more effectively. And then another chapter is called Should No More, and that's the part about accepting reality, and that maybe things should be a certain way, but they're not. So let's work with reality. And I was saying earlier, I have a friend whose husband says, stop shooting all over the place. You're making a mess. Because it's not helpful to you or the people around you when you rely on shoulds all the time. And then there's a really short portion in the back of the book called Practice. And that's about embracing life as a process and being comfortable with change and not having control over certain things and viewing life as a learning experience and not being so in living life.
Yeah, I read the book, and I got to spend time with Jamie before. That was the best part about being here, is I got to spend time with her. But the thing is that there's so many things in the book that we all know.
Yeah.
But what are the roadblocks that people come across that kind of shut us down from not doing things that we kind of intrinsically should know, but you should.
You just
know.
you should.
But there are things that we block ourselves in doing. What are obstacles that you want to see people help clear the way, clear the path?
One that I can think of is changing your words in the way that we talk about time. I stopped saying, oh, I'm so busy. Everybody's so busy. Like, it doesn't mean anything, right? We're just busy. Like, we have stuff to do. And whenever I say that, and there's so many things that we say to ourselves that just don't help us, I start feeling more pressed for time, right? Whereas if I can stop saying that and take 5 minutes, if that's all I choose to take the time for in the morning to do a meditation, or sit in the car, because I pull off on the side of the road sometimes and do a 5-minute meditation, like just because I didn't do it that morning. I'm like, I really just need to stop and do a little meditation. But being clear on, I think, so to answer your question, in addition to the way that we talk to ourselves about time, is not having clarity as to what's important. And when your values are really clear, it's easy to know what to say yes to and what to say no to. And I think that ability to say no is really important for our time management, but also for our mental health.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed. She has a great analogy, because sometimes when life is, we become passive.
Yeah.
And not deliberate. And you have a great analogy about dating.
Yeah, so I think it's important that you're deliberate in your choices in your life, so you end up with a life that you want, that works for you. And my analogy is, it's the difference between just dating whoever happens to come along and ask you out, or seeing someone that you would like to go out with and then pursuing that person. So that what you get is what you want.
Because it's easy to just kind of
There's an opportunity, let's just take it. But
And then
it may not be the right one, right?
And then you can feel like you're a little bit blowing in the wind, as opposed to kind of driving forward with what you want to put out there, day in and day out. And also, I think there's a cultural mindset, I think, too, that's out there about you can have it all, you can do it all, and do you find that coming up when you talk to people, that people are like, these expectations that are out there, and then we have to kind of unlearn some of those things?
Yes. So, Lindsay knows this. In addition to calling the book Mind Your Time, which was super boring, the subtitle was Having It All Without Losing Your Mind. And the focus group, including Lindsay, was like, I don't want to have it all, I just want what I want, right? And I thought, yeah, that's right. You want all that you want, but nobody needs all, right? So that's why the first chapter, again, is about defining what your all is. And that was the original working title of that chapter, determining what all means to you. So I think once we're clear on our values, we can have it all, but it's not everything in the world. It's what our personal all is.
So I did the exercises over the winter break, and my husband did them as well, because I asked him to do it. And then we haven't compared notes yet, but that's the next step. But I think that's, it's kind of a good exercise for anyone to do, but to do it in parallel with people that are important in your circle. I think it's important to do that. But I feel like one of the things, and a little personal, but there was part in the very beginning is about values and who you are to all these people in your life and how you want to define that. And so it seems like a pretty easy exercise, and then I really started thinking about a couple things in my life, and right there and then, all of a sudden I was like, I really value this, and I've been a little scared of it, and I made a change right there and kind of moved that up in my priority list. And it wasn't until I kind of mapped it out that it was so clear.
Yeah.
And so sometimes it seems like something that can be a simple exercise. When you actually start doing it, you start bringing all this information in, and then the book kind of builds on itself.
Yeah.
And I do feel like, and I was joking around that it's like a January book, but it's such a great thing to do at the beginning of a year, or when you're going through a transition, or when you're kind of stuck. You're like, okay, where do I start? And I feel like, especially for kids, like, maybe not you, I think you kind of know what you're doing, with things right now, but like as you go through the next step, we're glad you're here.
Mrs. Wallace, she's in class with Sarah.
Oh, hi. But when you're a high schooler going into college, and there's a couple young people in my life that I want to give this to, because I know they're struggling with finding their path, and it just helps clarify those things a little bit more.
Yeah, well, there's so much, especially when you are, in college or in a transition period, there's so much information coming at you that it can be hard to discern what you really want, and to sit down and take that time. And then when you're ready to move forward, you move much more quickly.
But I want to also ask you some of the favorite parts of this book. Like, what did you get most out of, and what did you enjoy really wanting, and what do you want people to take from it the most?
Well, meditation is one of them. But I like the third part, the way you think about time, because it's a place where you can be a little silly and have a little fun with it. When you really start, if you start saying your internal monologue out loud sometimes, you're like, wow, that's really messed up. And it's, and if you can have humor about it, like, that's really great, because then you can call yourself out on it, right? And be like, I wouldn't take someone else saying that to me, so why would I say it to myself? So I think that portion of the book, really thinking about how we talk to ourselves, especially as it comes to time, is my favorite part.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah.
And then I want to ask you a little bit about how some of the things in the book, or how some of the things that you learned along the way, some of your personal changes that you've had in your life that are reflected in the book, that you really learned from.
Yeah.
A little background on Jamie. She grew up in Mississippi, and from a very early age knew she wanted to make a big change. She knew that she wanted to not necessarily stay there. And I feel like you're somebody that has gone through life and has had a lot of changes.
Yeah.
Change is hard. Change is what drives something like this for us to be really clear. And so talk a little bit about that, your background, and what you personally got, things that you went through that have
Got me to here.
Exactly, and have been put into the book.
Yeah. I didn't talk about that far back in time, growing up in Mississippi, and I stayed there till I was 22 or 3. But I think it was a place where I didn't feel quite like it was my place, like it wasn't, which one of these things is not like the other kind of thing. And that really made me rely on my own sense of self for self-confidence. And I think that was a gift ultimately. And from age 5, I said, I'm moving to New York. I'd never been to New York, and I probably had seen pictures of New York, but at 23, I put all my stuff in a box and got on a plane and moved to New York, and I still had never been to New York. But I love novelty, so for me, I love new things. So that makes change easier for me, I think, than some people. And then as I was writing the book, I got sidetracked because of a major change in my life. So my husband was going to transfer to a different state with his job. And so we were spending all of our time when we weren't parenting or working or whatever, like going to New Hampshire and looking at schools and houses, and sort of the book sort of fell away. And because I was getting up early in the mornings to write, and then that time wasn't there anymore. And then he decided not to take the job, and I was like, oh, good, I'll get back to writing. And then 2 weeks later, we were like, and we're gonna get divorced. So then, that was another massive change. And so the article little digression, the article that I wrote that the attorneys had such a positive feedback for me was called Managing Transition. So I printed out my own article. I was like, this is how you manage transitions. Listen to your advice. So yeah, it took about a year probably after we got divorced, because I moved and managing my daughter's emotional well-being and figuring out how to co-parent and how to be an ex-spouse. Eventually, after a year, I did get back to the book, but it gave me a really clear way to practice what I was writing, because I had to be very clear about what was important to move forward in the right way.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting too that there's a lot of people that think about writing a book, but you wrote it. And we walked through a little bit of that, but you had talked about that you wanted to always write a book, and you just didn't know what that manifestation was going to be.
Right.
Can you just give us a quick kind of arc from that, the things that you went through to get to this book?
Yeah. So I didn't know that I could write until I went to law school, and you have to take a legal writing course, and I was like, suddenly oh, you're a really good writer. And I was like, oh, really? I didn't know. So then I really...
But you'd had in the back of your mind when you were younger.
Oh yeah, I wanted to write a book, but I didn't know that I was, would ever be able to do that, because I didn't even know that I could write, right? And so I wrote a novel. It is terrible. And I didn't realize it was terrible until I read my friend's Hannah McKinnon's book, and this is her 5th novel, and she sent me her working copy as she was writing it. I was like, oh my God, this is fabulous. This is like a finished book. Mine is really bad, right? I didn't realize how bad it was. So then, I was still writing for Attorney at Work, and I thought, I like the parameters of nonfiction. What really didn't work for me with fiction was you could do anything. And I'm a lawyer, you work within the confines of the law and the facts, right? And that's the way I like to write. And so I said, I really need to write nonfiction. And then as I was writing the Attorney at Work articles, and I started seeing repeating concepts and advice, I realized there's 6 things here that could be synthesized into a very helpful book. So I'm very outcome oriented, generally speaking, and I like concrete goals, because that's how I can achieve things. So I enrolled in a course that had a deadline where you had to have the book done. And I missed the deadline because I was getting divorced and but anyway, so I had all the course materials, so I sort of had a blueprint for how one goes about writing a book. And with that information, I was able to put together a manuscript and then workshop it and talk to other people and find a publisher. And it took 3 years, start to finish.
And then, what's next for you with the book and with what you want to do? What do you want to start rolling out and do more?
So I I have so many ideas. So I just put together the first meditation course that I was telling you about. I'm also making a course based on the principles in the book. So that will be a longer process. I have to shoot all the videos and I have all the content, but it'll be an online course that you can enroll in. It'll probably be 6 to 8 weeks, but you'll be able to do it at your convenience on your schedule. And then I have a coaching program that I'm putting together. I have a couple of coaching clients, also based on the principles in the book, so that'll be an 8-week coaching session.
And you want to do an offsite, don't you? You want to do a, like a...
Yes,
I got excited about that.
Yeah, I have an idea for, there's so many amazing, talented women. Here's one right here, here's one right here. And then there's so many people in the room that have so much to offer. You're one too. That I want to do like an all-day seminar for entrepreneurs based upon the principles in the book, but that would also be a get up and go like motivational day and people would network. That would be in person. So I'm working on that idea in my head too.